2023 is the year that broke me. I am the AAA. I am the conqueror of time. Other industries tremble at the first step of my all-consuming altar, where engagement leads you all back to me. An eternal loop of loot infernal. I don't need to own you. It's not like you own anything anyways. I only need to own your time. Okay, I'm ready. Welcome to the 8th annual Tyler's Honestly Biased Bestest Things of Best Things 2023 Speedrun Edition, sponsored by THQ. We ain't dead yet, except all the times we died. This year has been so good that even the bad games are so bad, they're good. But who has time for a bad game, even if it's good bad? I don't even have time for a good intro. Oh, so that's why it's so bad. Usually this section is devoted to me going over the entire year of gaming, warts and all. If I did that this year, this video would be longer than a Christopher Nolan film about a genius physicist who created the atomic bomb that decimated millions of lives, reshaped the course of human history, and got himself laid. Crap, I could have saved 6 seconds of time if I just said the name of the film. Oppenheimer? Being a gamist in 2023 meant having the most privileged problem of all time. None of my sportist friends understood the paralyzing trauma of having too many good games to play. They're stuck playing sports games. There's not enough time. Baldur's Gate 3, 104 hours. Tears of the Kingdom, 115 hours. SpongeBob SquarePants The Cosmic Shake, 9 hours. Oh, that's not that bad. Wait, 9.5? Oh my. 2022's Dying Light 2 bragged about 500 hours of game to play. 2023 politely asked Techland to hold its beer so it could shotgun a 12-pack of Nitro Brews. What a waste of a line. Keeping up with the industry felt like a second full-time job. The list of games I completed this year was dwarfed by the number of Game of the Year contenders I wanted to play but never got around to. That doesn't even take into consideration the amount of games I did start but didn't even finish. So no, I did not play Baldur's Gate 3. But did you even know that a brand new VR headset came out this year? Nobody's got time for that. The gaming industry is seriously reaching its breaking point when awesome game after awesome game pop out just for the developers that were responsible for these games to get laid off. Who can keep up with the gaming industry when the gaming industry can't even keep up with itself? I could go on, but there's not enough time. We gotta move on. We gotta keep consuming. We gotta keep crunching. So in short, 2 words define 2023 for me. Survival horror. Survival horror as a genre unearthed its greatest creations of the console generation in 2023. Survival horror describes the hardcore gamist's struggle to dedicate themselves to everything this medium has to offer. And lastly, survival horror is the atmosphere that shadows over the average game developer every time they sit behind their desk and stress over limited resources, potential layoffs, or that.
WWE 2K23.
WWE 2K23 was the right game at the right time.
Does a modern WWE game really deserve a spot on anybody's top 10 games of 2023?
No, not at all.
But somehow, WWE 2K23 clawed its way into mine. Like any self-respecting kid during the early 2000s, I would eat, sleep, and breathe wrestling. If I wasn't watching the show, I was giving Tombstone pile drivers to pillows, or listening to John Cena's rap album on repeat. If there was a wrestling game out there, I was feverishly playing it until the disc scratched. By the end of the SmackDown vs. Raw era, both the show and the game steadily declined in quality, leading to me and the WWE having a bit of a falling out. While I never lost respect for wrestling, I did lose hope in it ever grabbing my interest again.
Luckily, I'm now old and bored enough for nostalgia to hijack my brain and suck me back into the WWE universe.
So blame nostalgia for reigniting this old flame. And blame me for hearing that 2K finally made a decent wrestling game. Diving into 2K23's revamped control scheme brings back memories of the more arcadey feel from the old THQ games. This needed change revitalized my excitement for wrestling after the overcomplicated controls of prior years stripped it all away from me. Keeping the gameplay grounded while still allowing room for some arcade fun creates a nice and satisfying balance that maintains the momentum of every match. Providing the player with genuine combos for every wrestler that flows right into grapple successfully streamlines the Swiss Army knife full of actions at their disposal. Finally getting fun gameplay back with this year's game to accompany a career mode, highlighting John Cena, my favorite wrestler back in the day. During the Ruthless Aggression era, reliving matches from my childhood I vividly etched into my brain with real-life footage alongside every fight was spectacular, and definitely won't color my opinion on its objective standings in my top 10 of the year video.
Hey, it used to be number 3.
The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. I have a complicated love-hate relationship with Tears of the Kingdom. Criticism this complex deserves its own lengthy video, and I don't got time for that. So I'm thankful that Scott the Wise made a video that covers all my problems with this game, so I don't have to.
So instead of plagiarizing this video like so many other YouTubers, I'm telling you to go watch his video, and no, I agree. But to quickly summarize my own thoughts,
it's a massively impressive open-world sandbox with better dungeon design and production value than Breath of the Wild. Exploration is king here, and nothing this year felt more welcoming than coming home to decompress from an exhausting workday by exploring Hyrule at my own pace. But Tears of the Kingdom faces many of the same problems its predecessor did without the novelty. It tries to distract players with shiny new gadgets to use instead of fixing any of the prior game's issues. It also doesn't help that it's become more challenging. Where challenge motivates in games like Elden Ring, thanks to stellar combat, it frustrates in Zelda, where combat is inconsistent and imprecise.
these harsh difficulty spikes end up discouraging exploration by making me fear what's to come. Still a Game of the Year contender, though. A 10 out of 10 if I ignore every part of it that annoyed me.
Resident Evil 4.
Resident Evil does remakes like Oppenheimer does bombs. Really f***ing good.
Arguably too good, because it seems we'll be chasing the high that was the Resident Evil 2 remake until the inevitable heat death of the universe. Nevertheless, 2023's Resident Evil 4 is a stellar reinterpretation of one of the most influential third-person action games ever made. We wouldn't have Gears of War, or Vanquish, or any of the survival horror games we play today without Resident Evil 4. Those are big shoes to fill. And Resident Evil 4 Remake fills them well by applying the many improvements made to the Resident Evil formula over the years into the timeless structure, scenarios, and style of the original Resident Evil 4.
There's really not much else to say because on paper, this game is perfect. Take that, Jeff. You won't be rushing me this time. Oh no.
But for some reason, I can't help but compare it to everything that came before, which weakens this game's impact. Resident Evil Village already felt like the modern reinterpretation of RE4 that we all deserved, while still standing on its own thanks to unique level design and atmosphere. Resident Evil 4 Remake is so refined from the gameplay to the presentation, but it loses some of the original's campy charm in the process. We can't forget that neither of these games hold a candle compared to Resident Evil 2 Remake. This isn't even the best survival horror remake to come out this year.
Do I hate this game? No, it's amazing. I don't know why I'm crapping on this game for so long.
Trepang 2.
Fine, I'll make this one quick.
I am a sucker for high-octane run-and-gun first-person shooters, and Trepang 2 is the runniest and the gunniest. Taking notes from the old-school shooter franchise Fear, this zoomer shooter blends aggressive corridor shooters with claustrophobic horror themes for some astounding results. Embodying a powerful super soldier who can slow down time and turn invisible sounds counterintuitive to the horror genre. But Trepang 2 still finds ways to scare people's pants off by lulling them into that cathartic rhythm just to yank the comfort out from under their feet. It continues to shock, surprise, and delight throughout its brief runtime by building every level off of a unique flavor of horror. 1 minute the firefight takes place within dark offices. The next, this super soldier is running for their life deep inside a haunted laboratory.
The thrills never end in the adrenaline-fueled Trepang 2, which lovingly wears its influences on its sleeve. Oh, I'm done.
Dead Space. Remakes are now the common trend for AAA gaming. I like to think it's because these companies realize they don't make games like they used to and are too risk-averse to even try. That being said, I'm a sucker for a good remake when it's a game I love.
Let me introduce to you the Dead Space remake.
This is the kind of remake we need more of. Dead Space 2023 isn't interested in reimagining the entire experience of the original game, but it also isn't interested in treating the original game like some sacred cow that should never see change. Instead, it reinvents everything that made the original game so good, while making sure not to fix what isn't broken. Speaking of broken, this remake is more interested in breaking down the original game's flaws to make room for massive improvements. Every change made in the remake is a change for the better, whether that be a fundamental design decision or a visual tweak that makes combat easier to read. Where the original game couldn't fully realize its Metroidvania aspirations, the remake's technological innovations perfectly do by making the USG Ishimura a living, breathing, and connected ship. While it's good to have remakes that transform the original game into a unique experience for the modern age, it's even more respectable to see a remake that's so faithful to the source material where it counts, and evolutionary in the parts where it previously faltered. It all necromorphs together into the definitive version of a horror classic, Spider-Man 2.
There's so much to love about Spider-Man 2.
The sequel punctuates all the best parts of the first game, and somehow creates an even more enjoyable gameplay experience than any Spider-Man game before. Combat is consolidated, yet expanded, to provide greater purpose behind every move in Spidey's arsenal. Stealth is elevated figuratively and literally by introducing web lines which create better takedown opportunities that still feel consistent with Spider-Man's character. Web swinging is given an impeccable sense of speed alongside greater air control with the added wingsuit ability. It seriously makes it so tough to go back to the previous games. The highs of Spider-Man 2 are soaring like Zac Efron's basketball career. However, the story doesn't reach the dramatic heights of the first game. Spider-Man 2 falls into the tired trap of trying to do too much too fast. Bouncing between the two Spider-Men makes for an uneven story that sidelines Miles Morales for the majority of the plot, so we can spend more time on Peter Parker's slobbery makeout sesh with Venom. While Venom and Kraven are both awesome villains, they fight for screen time, just like the Spider-Men.
And just like every award at the Game Awards.
This results in both foes feeling underdeveloped and underloved. The story's shortcomings combined with nibbling bugs and game design missteps make for an amazing game dealing with death by 1,000 cuts. Armored Core 6. From Software has never done me dirty, but Bethesda did. Starfield came out shortly after Armored Core 6's release, so I thought I'd simply just take a break from Armored Core to dig right into Bethesda's biggest RPG to date.
My relationship with Bethesda is, complicated.
Fallout 4 was a concerning low point in our love life, but the honeymoon phase with Fallout 3 was so strong, all Bethesda had to do was show me Todd Howard, and I was instantly compelled to give him another shot.
It'll be different this time, right?
I wanted to stay faithful to Bethesda, but the entire time I was playing Starfield,
my mind would drift into temptatious thoughts about Armored Core 6.
The intricate mech customization gave me wet dreams. Rival mech battles filled me with an exhilarating sensation I never thought possible. Dashing across the battlefield, swinging around an energy sword felt so fluid I couldn't deny myself ecstasy any longer. More and more days crept by without me ever turning on the Xbox. I couldn't break the news to Todd Howard. The cruelest lies are often told without a word.
I loved Armored Core 6, so I abandoned Bethesda's Field of Stars and never looked back. Wow, you really know how to kill a mood, don't you?
Final Fantasy 16. A big budget doesn't always equal to a good game. The Callisto Protocol is a testament to that. Nevertheless, Final Fantasy 16 screams money.
And I wouldn't have it any other way. Are you kidding me?
The level of spectacle on display, thanks to a talented team with a seemingly infinite budget, creates some of the hypest video game moments I've experienced all year.
I ain't calling myself a gold digger. But
boss fights from Final Fantasy 16 make Bayonetta look like Babyonetta. Or God of War look like God of Babies. I don't know. Sure. It achieves this by adopting all the right elements from one of my favorite genres, the character action game, and pushes it beyond the boundaries of expectation. If the sublime hack and slash combat somehow doesn't excite you, then the story and characters definitely will. The grim high fantasy story is filled with dense world building and political strife that nudges players down a familiar yet transfixing plot. Final Fantasy XVI made me feel like $1,000,000. So what if cracks begin to show in both gameplay and story by the end? None of it dampens the experience as a whole, so. Alan Wake 2.
There's nothing I love more than passion. And Alan Wake 2 is a game birthed from passion. A passion for writing, a passion for creating, a passion for art-ing.
Remedy has slowly been perfecting their ability to morph every medium of art into one single electrifying experience. A tantalizing concoction of films, books, music, photography, and video game-esque video games blended together until nobody remembers where one art form starts and another one ends. Creativity is criticized until it loops back around into celebrating said creativity. The beauty behind creativity is captured alongside the horror. Remedy creates their first try at a survival horror game after perfecting the shooter genre with some truly inspired artistic choices. Enemies have undefined rule sets that douse every level with an unsettling atmosphere. The uneasy uncertainty that players encounter with every enemy reflects the nightmare these characters are spiraling into.
As a passionate fan of the first one, Alan Wake 2 was a shoo-in for my game of the year. There's just one thing holding this game back from the #1 spot. Nuh-uh, we ain't cliffhangering this.
No matter how good this game makes you feel, just like passionate love, it can get pretty sloppy pretty fast. That same uncertainty in the combat loops back around to bite itself in the butt when combat feels unrefined and inconsistent. Dodging enemies at seemingly the right time can still lead to damage dealt. Some gunshots cause enemies to react, yet other gunshots don't at all. All this leads to the player not getting enough feedback for combat to feel reliable or satisfying.
I'm not entirely sure if these are bugs or not. I'm only certain that it's messy. But that's the beauty of art. It's human. It's imperfect. And it's pretentious as hell. It's not a game. It's an art.
Number 1. Hi-Fi Rush.
I've already mentioned how character action is one of my favorite genres of gaming, but one I don't really get to talk about a whole lot anymore is my love of rhythm games.
Is there anything more satisfying than doing a thing, but to the beat?
So imagine my surprise when Xbox launched a brand new character action rhythm game. No.
Hi-Fi Rush is the most unique video game I've played all year. It's not another bloated 100-hour open world game like so many of 2023's quintessential titles, but instead, a short and sweet action title that knows exactly what it is and executes on its one-of-a-kind idea perfectly. No. Slashing robots to the beat makes for challenging yet massively rewarding combat that never gets old, mainly because it doesn't overstay its welcome. No. Charming characters and goofy writing mask the layered working class commentary and corporate America satire that nails every poignant point. The art direction drips style with stunning sensation, just like the music, which keeps the blood pumping from intro to refrain to coda. Heck no. There is literally nothing about this game to complain about.
I might be making passionate love to Alan Wake 2, but Hi-Fi Rush is the kind of game I want to marry. Everybody, give this one a chance and you'll be screaming for an encore. Would you look at that? Turns out I do have enough time to complain about the gaming industry. So first of all, there's